Hello and welcome to Cornish Walking Trails. Today we're in Penzance.
Same thing then.
In today's video, what's that?
I feel a song coming on.
It gets better.
It does get better. It's still called New Road.
Kind of floated in on their family fortunes. Go on, you first, in case there's anything weird.
Guess what we decided to do?
Okay, the men were enslaved to build the Sultan's palace.
Started to think that these pirates were carrying the plague.
In today's video, we're going to walk from Penzance to Newlyn. I know it's not very far. We're going to explore the artist community. You can't go to Newlyn without talking about the art colony that was down there in the 19th century. We're going to look at pirates in Penzance. Is there any truth to the myth of pirates in Penzance? And thirdly, we're going to tell you a little mystery.
Penzance is on the south coast of Cornwall, near the end.
This is a Wardlock tourist guide from the early 1920s, and it's specifically looking at Penzance and the area. Today we're going to walk from Penzance to Newlyn and do a bit of a circular walk back to Penzance again. And it introduces Newlyn and Mousehole this way. It says there's a regular service of wagonettes from Penzance at the top of Morrab Road near the public buildings. To Newlyn, the distance is only about a mile by road, a pleasant walk. Isn't that lovely?
That's lovely. Let's go.
So we're now going to go through Penlee Park. Within the grounds of Penlee Park is Penlee House, and it's a gallery and museum, and it's currently got a really interesting exhibition of all the Lamorna colony artists in there. It's well worth a visit. It's only £6 per person, and there's loads of other paintings in there as well, and obviously a permanent exhibition. Lots of cultural history, social history too. Well worth a visit. So when you think of Penzance,
yeah,
one of the famous things about Penzance is the Pirates of Penzance.
It is, isn't it? I love that.
I know.
Pirates of Penzance by Gilbert and Sullivan is a comic opera in 2 acts. Its official premiere was at the Fifth Avenue Theatre in New York City on the 31st of December 1879, where it was well received by both audiences and critics. It is packed full of sentimental pirates, blundering policemen, absurd adventures and improbable paradoxes. Frederic, a pirate's apprentice, falls head over heels in love with Mabel, the daughter of Major General Stanley.
It's got me smiling, Sarah.
Why's that?
I feel a song coming on.
I am the very model of a modern Major
song.
General. I've information, vegetable, animal and mineral. I know the kings of England and I quote the fights historical from Marathon to Waterloo in orders categorical. I'm very well acquainted too with matters mathematical. I understand equations both simple and quadratical. About binomial theorem I'm teeming with a lot of news, with many cheerful facts about the square of the hypotenuse.
Well done, Andrew.
Thank you.
Now, that is kind of a red herring in a way, isn't it?
Well, it's the Gilbert and Sullivan opera, isn't it? Was it an opera or it's
Yes,
Pirates
it
of
is,
Penzance, isn't it?
Yeah. And although you think it's about pirates and piracy, it's kind of got a twist to that, hasn't it?
It has, yes. Yeah, so my understanding is that when they first performed the show, they decided to do it on Broadway in America.
Yes.
And it's because of the copyright laws, because they found that when they did their previous shows, they released them in the UK, and very, very quickly there was like a copy of it done in America, and they lost all the performing rights for it.
So
they thought they would get their own back by actually launching it on Broadway.
So the piracy aspect of that isn't actually about the Pirates of Penzance, it's about piracy of copyright, wasn't it?
Yeah.
However, we will be picking up more about the Pirates of Penzance later in this video.
Yeah, one of the reasons we've come here is there any truth in the fact of Penzance and pirates being associated?
Yeah.
And we've come up with something.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant story.
To prove it does.
Yeah. Been really well planned out in Penzance, hasn't it? You've got a lovely green space in the middle of all the houses.
I should imagine this was all sort of done in Victorian times, because a lot of these properties around here are very substantial, aren't they? And,
huge.
Yeah, they got it right back then, didn't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's tennis courts here, near a sort of football ground area as well, and just beautiful parklands, nice.
Just picking up and expanding on what you were saying a moment ago about Penzance being kind of developed in the Victorian years. This is 20 years, I suppose you could say, after that. And it says the borough of Penzance has little or no history of importance. It's a town of today, basing its claim for recognition on the fact that it's healthy, beautifully situated, fulfilling all modern requirements in respect to sanitation and water supply. It's a pleasant place for a few weeks sojourn or for a lifelong residence. They're just saying it's a nice place to be, aren't they? So we're now walking down Alexandra Road, which takes us to the seafront. And these Victorian properties are huge. They're over 4 floors. And most of them are still guest houses today. I guess that's probably what they were built for in the first place, being so big. They go back as far as you can see. Beautiful to look at. So the Victorian architecture, the influence of it is so strong that these modern properties have had to be built. With that, a huge nod to how the Victorian houses looked. They're actually flats, so you've got 3 in one building. But it's incredible, that influence, that power of the old architecture being mirrored in the new. So it tells us Alexandra Road that we've just walked down, admiring all those beautiful Victorian properties. Her Royal Highness Alexandra, Princess of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall, opened and named this road in the 24th of July 1865, is that?
Yeah.
So it is slap bang in the middle of that Victorian era, isn't it? So continuing our theme of pirates, this is the home ground of the Cornish pirates.
Yes, it's Menai.
Yes.
And yeah, now called the Cornish Pirates. It used to be called Penzance Newlyn rugby team.
Yes.
But,
I thought they were Penzance Pirates at one point.
I think they might have been, but now I think they're called the Cornish Pirates.
Is that because they draw from all of
Yes.
Cornwall?
Yeah.
It's a lovely ground.
But that is not our only link to Pirates and Penzance.
No, keep watching.
Keep watching.
It gets better.
It does get better.
You can't go anywhere in Penzance without the name Belitho cropping up somewhere.
Oh. Me.
No, I'm just saying, Belitho is everywhere in
isn't
Penzance, isn't it? Very wealthy family, and they did a lot for the community, didn't they?
So we're walking into Newlyn now, so it's like our first glimpse across the Newlyn. It's looking lovely today. But the road that we were all walking along was called New Road.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's called now. Perhaps we can go and have a look in a moment. It's still called New Road. So this road was put in the 1880s, and it's got a story about this road.
What is it? Do tell.
It took quite a long time to build it.
Okay.
It was put in after there was a big storm and it wiped out the old bridge and that type of thing, so they decided they needed to improve all this area, and it was put out to tender, and the local man said yeah he would do it, and he fixed a price and what have you. But basically he ran out of money.
Partway through?
Partway through,
oh, right,
and it caused all sorts of problems because the people in Newlyn needed to get to Penzance.
Yeah.
And they had to go all the way around back, and it was quite a diversion. It's went on for years, so they were very, very thankful once this road actually got built. But the Belitho family, big part of the Penzance area, they stepped in and they helped out.
So they helped finish the road?
Yes, because the guy had run out of money, and then they had to run a toll on the road, I think 2 or 3 years afterwards, which was quite unpopular.
To pay for it?
But obviously it was such a convenient way to get in and out that people paid the toll.
Not far from Newlyn now, but already you can smell the sea with a little bit of a taint of a fishy smell. With it being quite a huge industry down here, the fish market is really important to this community, so it's not surprising you can get a little whiff of fish.
Heading into Newlyn, the small building on the left will draw your attention. It's Newlyn Art Gallery.
So taking a bit more from the Wardlock book, it says of Newlyn that it's known as a fishing centre and is given name to a school of artists of worldwide fame. The gallery, built of Cornish granite, is on the Penzance side of the village and was erected in 1895 by the late Mr. Passmore Edwards, who dotted the county with public institutions bearing his name, such as libraries, convalescent homes, water fountains. The appearance of the building is rendered the more striking by the reliefs in copper which ornament its facades. These represent the earth, a snake, the air, a bird, fire, a dragon, and water, fishes. Anyone who desires to become more closely acquainted with the work of the Newlyn School cannot do better than visit one of the exhibitions. It goes on to tell us that one of the streets, in inverted commas, has been facetiously named the Rue des Beaux Arts, and not without reason. So, do you think it still exists? Should we go and see if we can find it?
Yeah, so that's where the sort of artists were, was it?
Yeah, so facetiously kind of means that they're mocking something that is of quite a serious nature, doesn't it? So they've named it this French romantic name to tease them a little bit, I expect. So let's go and find it. I love how the art community influenced Newlyn so much. Look, our gallery terrace, and it's just down here. Over the centuries, Cornwall's had kind of 3 schools of art. One in St Ives, one here in Newlyn, and one at Lamorna, all at different kind of periods. And the people that were able to come down and experiment and explore their artistic talent kind of floated in on their family fortunes, didn't have to worry too much about making a living. And I think that is true of some of the people that came to Newlyn at the time. Oh gosh, I wasn't expecting her to come down, it's so narrow. And as you climb up the hill, you come to Rue de Bosart. I love that you've still got the old written sign. It's like a stenciled sign on a bit of old board.
Brilliant. I mean, it's amazing they've still got the sign up here. Yeah. So Rue des Beaux Arts.
Yeah.
A terrible French translation. Yeah. Means street of fine arts.
Oh, beautiful art, isn't it?
Okay, so it says one of the streets has been facetiously named the Rue de Beaux Arts. Just where we are now. And not without reason. It says the shabby cottages have contained some very notable paintings, and it was in one of them that Mr. Frank Bramley worked on the most famous picture, A Hopeless Dawn, which now hangs in the Tate Gallery in London.
Okay, you've got an image of Frank Bromley's house. Yeah,
but this was his studio.
And his studio?
Yes, and it says that Frank Bramley had his studio on the top floor of a cottage, and it was a thatched cottage, as you can see in that sketch there. And it's where this property here is now, so it's obviously been completely redone.
Oh yeah, it has,
but the little alleyway is just here on the left.
Are we going down there now then?
Yeah, I think we should.
I've never been down there.
No.
I've got itchy feet to go down there. I'm dying to know where it goes. Go on, you first, in case there's anything weird down here. So cute, isn't it? And that's it. It's just a higgledy-piggledy back lane.
That's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can see why the artists were attracted to this area though, isn't it?
It's so quaint, isn't it?
These old, beautiful cottages, and you had everybody going around their daily lives, which was really quite interesting. And you had all the the activity around the harbour with the fishermen and everything.
And the light is brilliant, isn't it?
It's a subject, isn't it, for them?
They employed models of the local community, didn't they? To be in their paintings.
Yeah, and from what I understand, the local community embraced them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Newlyn is a picturesque fishing port about a mile west from Penzance, in the southwest corner of Cornwall. the cottages and houses cluster round the large harbour, which has for centuries been the lifeblood of the village. There are records of what is known as the Old Quay being repaired in 1435. Nowadays, Newlyn boasts 3 more fishing quays, creating this spacious harbour.
This is quite an industrial landscape with the fishing community obviously dominating. And the biggest building here is the fish market behind me. Still a very, very busy port.
Did you know, sir, in the late 1800s, I think it was in the 1890s, they actually had riots here, Newlyn riots.
Okay.
And it was over fishing.
Right.
So the local community here, most of them were staunch Methodists, and obviously part of the religion, they wouldn't do anything really apart from worship on a Sunday.
Okay.
So everything else was pretty much forbidden.
Yes.
And the harbour had been expanded, and it was attracting a lot of boats from outside the area. So there was a huge shipping fleet came down from the north east of England.
All the way up the coast,
Yes.
from Surrey.
Yeah, and further up again, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but anyway, they were here at the time, and they didn't sort of respect the Sunday. They didn't respect the Sabbath day,
right.
and they would fish on a Sunday. And what was happening is, because they were bringing fish in, and the local fishermen weren't fishing, there was more demand for it the following day, and it pushed the price up.
Right.
So they were getting a better price, and yeah, the locals didn't like it.
Oh, we're in the way.
Yeah, so I mean, it's hell up. They they raided the boats when they came in. They overpowered the men that came in. They dumped all the fish into the harbour here.
Oh, goodness me.
Yeah, and they actually called the military in.
Oh, what, to quell the riot?
Yeah, yeah.
Gosh. Well, there's Newlyn boys. Got to be careful, are they Newlyn boys?
Chuck your fish in the harbour.
I've never been out to the end of the pier, so this is North Pier. Look at all those boats. There's one going out now. He must be going out to catch something or other. It's a great view. You've got all the seagulls, and you've got Newlyn laid out in front of you. It's probably not the pretty view that you'd expect, but it's beautiful in its own way. Rugged, industrial, quite brutal. I like it because it's so full of activity, it's full of life, it's full of people making their living, working hard and doing what they need to do. So the art colony down here wanted to actually capture daily life, didn't it? The fishermen's daily life, which is why you see them with the nets and the boats and all that sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they actually immerse themselves into the community as well. A lot of these artists were actually living with people that were here fishing.
Yeah, the people that genuinely came from Cornwall, weren't they?
Yeah.
One of the most interesting stories in Newlyn involves fishing, and a fishing boat in particular called the Mystery. It followed a night in the pub when the gold rush was in full swing in Australia. Some men hatched a plot to sell their boat and go to Australia goldfields to make their fortune. In the pub, this turned into, well, why don't we just sail in our own fishing boat to Australia? Which, when you think how far Australia is and how small their boat was a bit of an odd plan to do. Anyway, unlike most things in the pub that in the morning it becomes a faint dream, this actually nobody was prepared to back down, and they went through with it. So they made some modifications to their boat. They said it's made various adaptations to their 36-foot lugger, such as sheathing her bottom in zinc plates and decking her fore and aft. They took on supplies, and on the 18th of November in 1854 they set sail, with only a compass, sextant and barometer for navigation, cheered off by enthusiastic crowds on the shore and in escorting boats. So they would have gone off to Australia. What a voyage. So during the voyage they had to go round South Africa all the way to get to Australia, and they had everything during that journey that the sea could throw at them, ranging from the doldrums to raging storms. And it says after 116 days at sea they finally arrived in Australia, and there was quite an impressive crowd to greet them because they'd heard about this voyage and they weren't quite sure that these men were going to make it. So when they did, everybody came out crowd assembled, and in the excitement they forgot all about the reason why they were there and never went looking for gold. Eventually all of the men ended up returning to Newlyn, and there was somewhat of an irony when one of the Captain Nichols, he actually lost his life when he was run over by a London cab, would you believe? So he went through all this voyage to Australia only to lose his life to a London cab, which is really quite sad. So just near the War Memorial in Newlyn, there's the War Memorial. Just on the other side of the road is the plaque, isn't it, to the mystery.
The Ship Institute.
Oh, is
Fisherman's
it?
Mission,
The
yeah.
Fisherman's Mission.
It's here.
A plaque.
So you know what the moral of that story is, Sarah, don't you?
What's that?
Never agree to do anything after you've been in the pub.
Well, that's a given, isn't it? This is quite a feat, isn't it?
Isn't it?
I think they're mad.
Can you imagine? So, you know, comes in one night, he's been fishing.
Yeah.
He goes to his wife and says, I'm just going down to the pub with the boys. Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem. Comes back the next day and goes, guess what we decided to do?
I know.
She goes, you're a bloody idiot. You ain't doing that. He said, I am. Cheers, bye.
Cheers and gone. Whilst all men of the mystery survived their voyage, the community down here pays great respect to those that are not so lucky.
It's very well done, isn't it? It's a memorial to all the fishermen that have been lost at sea.
Yeah.
Quite poignant,
Just bring it
isn't
home to you that it's a dangerous job,
It does,
isn't it?
doesn't it?
Yeah. I do like that bronze actually. I like the base of it. It looked as though he was floating and the granite was carved in ripples,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
he had a compass on the bottom as well.
Yeah, on
with
his-
the
under
bearing
his
with
feet.
North Sea 7 West on it.
Yeah, beautifully done.
Yeah.
We're going to go back now along the coastal path towards Penzance. It's not very far. And we've got a beautiful story about some pirates.
War!
Back to our Pirates of Penzance.
So at the start of our video we talked about Pirates of Penzance, and we talked about the Gilbert and Sullivan musical from the 1880s, and we wanted to find, is there any evidence of pirates in Penzance? We've got some old books and we found evidence. So this is from a book called Cornish Characters and Strange Events by S. Baring Gould, and it's actually called The Pirates at Penzance. So let me take you back. We're going back to the year of 1760. We were engaged in the 7 Years' War at that point in time, so people were a little bit nervous of invasion, I think, of being attacked. Anyway, it says on the night of the 29th and 30th of September, Penzance was alarmed by the firing of guns, and soon after by the intelligence that a large ship of a strange appearance had run ashore near Newlyn. Half Penzance poured out in that direction in the grey of early morning, but on reaching the strand they were panic-stricken to see on the ship and drawn up on the beach a number of ferocious-looking individuals with baggy trousers and red fezzes on their heads, and each armed with a scimitar. Thereupon the half of Penzance that had turned out now turned tail and made the best of their way back to the town, crying out that the Turks had landed and were intent on massacring the inhabitants of Penzance, plundering their houses and carrying away their wives and children into captivity. Can you imagine? you see this scene on the beach here. So this boat, apparently it came in, and the crew were lost. But they thought they were in the Atlantic somewhere near Cadiz, which is down near Spain. So they were miles off, weren't they? But they'd wrecked the boat here, and people here were just panic-stricken.
So this is the real Pirates of Penzance, because what had happened for the last couple of hundred years is that the Moors had actually come over, the Barbary Corsairs had actually come over from Morocco, and they'd raided the coastline for men, women and children. They took them back to Morocco. The men were enslaved to build the Sultan's palace. The women went in the harem and the children were educated like Moors. So they were afraid. There was constant fear that fishermen in the area were going to be taken into captivity.
So this was all going on in the early 1700s. This book is an account based on somebody who was there, who was called Thomas Pellow. He was from Penryn, and he'd been on his uncle's ship. He'd been selling pilchards to Genoa, and on the way back they had been captured aboard their ship and taken to Morocco. So he was enslaved from the age of 11, and he was then made to build the Sultan's palace. And he says that the palace was very spacious building and certainly prestigious strong. The walls 12 feet thick and 5 stories high, built only of fine earth and hot lime, mixed and well incorporated by a vast number of slaves kept for that purpose. For it is thrown, as I may say, into a mould, that being very well rammed together, so with basically forcing this lime into the shape of a brick, and it became almost as durable as stone. Conditions as a slave were harsh and many died, hence the continual need to abduct and kidnap European men. In total, 1 million Europeans were taken into slavery. This became known as the white slave trade. A third book, it's a Hamilton Jenkins book, and it's about the social history of Cornwall, and it tells you that nobody was exempt from being enslaved, because they say here Sir Francis Godolphin and his lady and his servants, with his brother Captain Godolphin and his wife, going to the Isles of Scilly, they were taken by the Turks and they were abused and put into slavery. So it didn't matter what rank you were in our society. If you were a fit and able-bodied person, you were taken captive and taken to Morocco, as simple as that. And this went on for quite a while. There was a couple of 100 years of this going on. So the local fishing population were actually afraid to go to sea in case they were held captive by some of these pirates from Morocco, Algiers and the north of Africa. And they believed that over 1 million European fishermen and men were taken captive and enslaved in those regimes. So you're probably wondering what happened to those Algerian pirates that accidentally landed on this beach near Newlyn. Let's pick up that story now.
This continues. It says a volunteer company was called out with drum beat to arms and marched to the beach, where they found 172 men who were surrounded, deprived of their weapons, and marched to a spacious building called the Folly that stood on the western green. So all the locals, they must have been absolutely frantic, because they thought that these pirates effectively were coming to probably take them as hostages, maybe, or to take them away to help build these palaces that you spoke about. So you can understand the fear here, isn't it? So obviously they must have been really pleased that the troops had come in and they'd rounded up these men and they'd locked them away. And we're going to go up and try and find the Folly now, but that's not the end of our story.
Oh.
There's a little bit more after that. But let's try and find where the Folly used to be, because apparently it's gone now, but I think I've got a good idea where it used to be. I always thought that a coarse hare, Sarah, was a long-eared rabbit that told rude jokes.
You're making light, you're being facetious, you're making light of a serious subject.
Sorry.
Very good though. Big groan.
So there's different accounts of where that pirate ship actually landed here in Penzance. So the records we've just read out, that indicated it was more towards Newlyn end.
Yeah.
But I've done a little bit more research online, and I sort of looked at sort of shipwrecks that went down off Cornwall, and there's a site that actually records them all. And they say it went off Chimney Rocks, which is down very close to Jubilee Pool down there, that end. So it was somewhere along this stretch anyway.
Going back to your joke.
Okay, you're putting that in here.
You might be splitting hairs here.
I am splitting hairs.
Because it's only a stone's throw from each other really, isn't it?
Very good.
Any ideas?
Yeah, so the Folly apparently used to be at the end of Cornwall Terrace, just before you came out onto where the prom is now.
Yeah.
And it was demolished in the 1930s, and then this was built.
Oh, okay.
So it's I think it's just around the back, I should imagine, is where it would have been.
Are we just going to finish it up by having a look, see what's there now?
Yeah. So it would have been around here. This area is where the Folly would have been. So they imprisoned these 172 pirates. And the twist in the story is that once they were holding them here, the locals started to think that these pirates were carrying the plague. So
they were really concerned that not only, so it started off that they were concerned that they were going to be carried away as hostage, and then it was a concern that these pirates were going to give them the plague and they were all going to die. So they called for the backup, effectively. They called for the army to come down, and after a little bit of time they decided that these guys didn't have the plague after all, and they realised that they weren't actually going to do them any harm, and these guys just wanted to go back home. And in the end, the Navy actually carried them back
To Algiers.
to Algiers. Yeah.
Fascinating story.
Pirates of Penzance.
Indeed.
I've forgotten to do that thing again. If you've enjoyed today's video, give us a thumbs up. It does help us with the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. It's free on YouTube. Cornish Walking Trails. We give you a video most Fridays. Summer in Cornwall.
And if you're on Instagram and Facebook, we're on there too. So go and check out our pages.
This probably isn't going to work, Sarah, but I'm just going to try and recreate that image for that gas stand painting, the one which we it was actually at the Penlee Gallery where we had our lunch, wasn't it? I think it's my favourite picture of Penzance. Did you know it was in the council offices for years, and they decided not to exhibit it because it portrayed Penzance in a bit of a depressive way. Yes.
It's become one of the most famous paintings of Penzance, isn't it?
It's called "The Rain It Raineth Every Day."
Yeah. A quote from Shakespeare.
Yes.
If you fancy doing this walk, I will put the details of the streets and the routes that we've taken today on Patreon. If you look on patreon.com, search Cornish Walking Trails. There's various tiers, and we'll put the instructions and a leaflet on there for you. So, we did it!
We did it!
We found pirates in Penzance.
Evidence of pirates in Penzance. It happened, it was a thing.
Indisputable.
Yeah.
Tick that box. We've explored the art community, found a pretty little street.
We did, and we told you the story about the mystery.
No longer a mystery.
Just careful what you agree to do when you've been out in the pub.
Yeah. So that's it for us from now. We'll see you next time. So, bye!
Bye!
Today's video, we're walking from Penzance to Newlyn. Not a very long walk, but there's 3 fabulous stories. One about a fishing boat, one about I can't remember. It's gone.
I am the very model of a modern major general. I've information, vegetable, animal and mineral. I know the kings of England, and I quote the fights historical from Marathon to Waterloo to... I am the very modern... Oh, no, it's gone too quick.
Don't have a white car and park under a tree. It's been pebble dashed.
So in the last part of the... wondering what the hook is for this video. I'm just worried it's not going to be a patch on last week's video.
What?
Pirates.
Oh.
Go with me.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Right. Arg.
Pieces of meat.
I thought you were on the hook, you know, as in you mean with Captain Hook.
Captain
I was
Hook, yeah,
thinking
Captain
fishing hook.
No, Captain
I was
Hook.
expecting netting.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Right,
reel
yeah.
them in.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a long road, isn't it, Sarah? This one's number 15,1208.
I'm leaving you here.